in case any of you haven't figured it out by now, I'm an avid gun owner. A lot of the people that I know would say that I take the term gun owner to new heights. There are more than a few guns in my house. Some would say there's an absurd number of guns in my house. I've been shooting since I was 10 years old. If I say I'm a gun owner, and I'm a gun enthusiast, you will all agree. Now, shooting is a really expensive hobby to have. In the past year, the ammo prices have gone up so much that to just go to the range and just shoot for a few hours, the cost of ammo alone is over $50. And you know, I work at King Soopers. I'm not rolling in money at this point in my life, so why have I stuck with this hobby for so long? And why do so many people do it when they're, you know, in such financial troubles? The reason that I still shoot, and the reason that's so important to me, is because I, along with millions of Americans, see how crucial and how important it is to know how to use firearms and know how to, you know, defend yourself if you need to. People have a lot of different reasons that they think make America so great and why they think it's so powerful, but I would argue that the greatest, the best reason for this country being so great is the Bill of Rights. It's basically our Constitution. The fact that we have certain rights that cannot be taken away by the government is just so important, so revolutionary. And I'm here to tell you that one of the amendments and the Constitution as a whole is being undermined right now. Today I'm going to talk about the magazine ban that's been instituted in Colorado and the threat that it and similar legislation poses to the Second Amendment, to the Constitution as a whole, and to our whole society. The Second Amendment states, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of the free state, comma, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Pretty self-explanatory. Now if we take a look at the law that was just passed in Colorado and went into effect on June 1st of this year, it says, a person who sells, transfers, or possesses a large capacity magazine in violation of the new provision commits a Class 2 misdemeanor. That means you will go to jail. And I was just wondering, is it possible to have these two, like the law and the amendment at the same time? Are the two not completely contradictory? A lot of people would say they're not. I would say they are, but it's arguable because people can say, you know, it's easy to argue about what the intent of the Founding Fathers was when they wrote that amendment. What cannot be argued is the fact that each amendment to the Constitution grants us a unique and important freedom, and you know, it's all about freedom. In the words of Ezra Taft Benson, for the past 2 centuries, those who do not prize freedom have chipped away at every major clause of the Constitution. Until today, we face a crisis of great dimensions. And what crisis is he talking about? To illustrate the crisis, it's kind of silly, but I'm going to talk about the game Jenga. A lot of us have played the game Jenga. It's the tabletop game where you build a tower out of small wooden blocks, and the players just take turns taking out a small little piece of it, and eventually the whole tower collapses. It's kind of a silly game, but it teaches us a really important principle, and that principle, you know, you can ask any engineering or architectural major, they'll tell you how important it is. And that is that if you have a really complex structure that's being acted upon by unseen forces like gravity and stress, sometimes you can take small pieces of the structure out and the whole thing will stay up, but every time you do, it'll become less stable. And every time you do, you know, you never know until after it happens which piece will cause the entire thing to crumble when you take it out. Our country is the great tower that I'm talking about with Jenga. The structure that keeps it up and keeps it standing is our Constitution. It's what holds our society up. And like with a lot of buildings, the structure can be seen from the outside because it's on the inside. And for that reason, a lot of people forget that it's there and they forget how important it is. As you know, as people decide that it's their responsibility to take small pieces of that structure out, the whole thing becomes less stable. The whole country becomes less stable. And you know, how are these pieces removed from the Constitution? The magazine ban is a perfect example of this. People say that the magazine ban doesn't affect the Second Amendment totally because we still can own guns, we just can't own large capacity magazines for them. You know, they say the right is still intact and the amendment is still intact. But you can't just pick and choose little parts to pull out. For example, the 8th Amendment says that no cruel or unusual punishment will be used on criminals. Would it make sense to just take out one little piece of that and say that the government can use cruel punishment but not unusual, or the other way around, if they can use how do you feel if the government said, you know, we're not going to use cruel punishment anymore, but we'll still use unusual punishment? It doesn't really hold up because each of the amendments is in there for a reason, and if you take out little pieces of it, you undermine the entire thing. There has never been so much stress on our society than there is right now. There's so many forces that are acting towards the destruction of our society. You know, I think more now than ever. Is now really the time that we should be worrying about picking out little pieces of that structure? Is now the time that we should be undermining the structure and, you know, altering it? I would say it's definitely not. Basically, yeah, you can't just take out pieces because our country is in a lot of danger right now, and this is not the time to be worrying about it. There might be a time down the road where we can worry about picking apart the Constitution, but now is not the time. America is my country. It's all of your country. It's the country of our fathers and the country of our children. And, you know, it's so important. And for this reason, there is no justification for the destruction of the structure that holds it all up.